going to do some cognitive stimulation and reminiscence activities. So now's a good time, if there's anyone else in your house that hasn't joined you already, to ask them to come in and we can all do this together. So here we are, it's the first week in April 2020 and it's a beautiful spring day here where I am in Oxford, and I wonder what the weather's like where you are today. The sun is shining here, but it's still quite cool, it's about 10 degrees, so not too warm, but typical for this time of year, typical for early spring. So I thought we could begin today by going back in time and looking at a few events that happened during this week in history, but long ago. So first of all, we're going back to 1889, that's 131 years ago. So back in 1889, the Eiffel Tower in Paris opened its doors to the public for the first time. And I've got a picture of the Eiffel Tower here. I wonder if you've ever visited the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Now it's made completely of wrought iron and it took 2 years, 2 months and 5 days to build, which doesn't seem too long considering how tall it looks. I wonder if you know how tall the Eiffel Tower is. How tall do you think this building is? Well, after its completion, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world for 41 years. It was eventually taken over by the Chrysler Building in New York and it became the tallest man-made structure, but the Eiffel Tower held the record until then. So how tall do you think the Eiffel Tower is? Well, apparently it's over 300 metres tall, that's 1,000 feet. So you must get an amazing view from up there. Now, in terms of monuments that you have to pay to get into, the Eiffel Tower is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. And back in 2015, there was nearly 7 million visitors to the Eiffel Tower in that year. And that works out at about 25,000 visitors a day, so it's a really busy place. Now, there's another building in Paris that up until recently was an even more popular tourist destination. It's a much, much older building and it took a lot longer to build. I've got a picture of it here. What building do you think this is in Paris? It maybe looks a bit different to how you've seen it before. Well, it looks like it could be a church or perhaps a cathedral. It's Notre Dame Cathedral. So they started building Notre Dame back in 1163 and it took almost 200 years to complete, a long time to finish this building. And up until recently it was one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. I think it had 13 million visitors per year, so lots of people used to go there. Unfortunately, there was a fire in the cathedral back in 2019, so it's closed to the public at the moment. But thankfully, lots of its treasures were preserved, but it's going to take between 5 and 6 years before it can be reopened again. But then the public can start to go back. So I think you can see in this picture near the clock tower, there's some scaffolding there. But yes, the construction's now well underway, so they'll restore it to its former glory. So coming a bit closer to home now, and a bit more back to recent times, we're going to go to 1957 and we're going to go up to Norwich. So Norwich City Council were very ahead of their time and they got a computer in 1957, their very first computer, to help them with their taxes and their payroll. They thought it'd be more efficient if they had a computer to help them. But the computer they got was absolutely enormous compared to the computers we have today, compared perhaps to the computer that you're watching this on. The computer they had needed a truck and 12 men just to get it to the building, inside the building. So here we've got a picture of it here. Can you see? It's absolutely enormous. But they reckoned it saved them about 20% of their usual cost to have this computer, although apparently it needed a room almost all to itself. So thank you for joining us for this week in history. So we had a look at 3 things: We had a look at the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which opened its doors for the first time back in 1889 in This Week in History. And we also looked at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which is undergoing some reconstructive work at the moment due to a fire last year. And we also looked at Norwich Council, who in 1957 got their first ever computer, which was so big it needed a truck and 12 men to get it in the door. So thank you very much for joining us for this activity today.